All right, let's talk about the next few years. What's really going to separate the people who thrive from those who just get by? I'll tell you, it's not just about skills or having the perfect strategy. It's all about your mindset. So today, we're going to build a framework for a truly bulletproof mindset, one that's ready for 2026 and whatever else is coming our way.
Man, this quote really hits home, doesn't it? It's not about predicting the future. It's about building a mind that can adapt, grow, and grab opportunities no matter what happens. So, how do we actually do that? Well, the amazing thing is, the power is completely in our hands.
So, why are we so focused on mindset right now? Think of it this way. Your mindset is the operating system for your entire life. It decides how you see challenges, how you bounce back from setbacks, and ultimately whether you move forward or just stay stuck. Waiting until New Year's to get started is just not going to cut it anymore.
Get this, 80%. That's a huge number. And that's how many New Year's resolutions have completely failed by February. It's kind of harsh, but it's a reality check, right? It just proves that wanting something and having good intentions, it's not enough. We need a totally different approach. And that new approach really boils down to this one critical difference, the difference between wanting something and truly committing to it. Wanting is passive. It's all talk, it's the dream. But committing, that is all action. That's taking ownership. It's deciding that you're in the driver's seat and that nothing, absolutely nothing, is going to stand in your way.
Okay, so what does that kind of commitment actually look like when we're talking about our brains? Well, it starts with a very specific way of thinking. There's this brilliant psychologist, Carol Dweck, whose research found that there are basically two fundamental mindsets that shape our lives. And figuring out which one you're running on is the first real step to taking control.
This chart just breaks it all down perfectly. On one side, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the belief that talent is just something you're born with. You either have it or you don't. So challenges feel super risky and failure feels like a final judgment. But then you have the growth mindset. This is the belief that your abilities can be built. It sees challenges as opportunities and failure as just a lesson on the way to getting better.
Now, I know this might all sound good in theory, but you might be thinking, how do I actually make that shift? Well, here is the really exciting part. This is not just about thinking positive. It is grounded in hard science. We can literally, physically, change the structure of our own brains. And it all comes down to this incredible concept called neuroplasticity. For the longest time, science thought our brains were pretty much set in stone once we became adults. But now we know that's just not true. Our brains can change, they can adapt our whole lives. Every single time you learn something new or even just think a new thought, you are physically rewiring your brain.
I absolutely love this analogy. It's such a great way to picture it. Imagine your thought patterns are roads. A new, more positive thought, that's like a tiny dirt path in a field. But the more you travel down that path, by practicing that new way of thinking, you start to pave it, you widen it, and eventually you turn it into a high-speed motorway. You're actually making growth-oriented thoughts your brain's new default highway. And one of the best tools for building that motorway is something called cognitive reframing. It's a really simple three-step process. First, you just have to notice when you're having one of those negative fixed mindset thoughts. Second, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this 100% true? Is there another way to look at this? And third, you just replace it with a thought that's more balanced and empowering. Okay, so we've got the science. Now let's get super practical. Building a bulletproof mindset, it takes daily practice. So think of this next part like we're stocking up a toolkit with some simple but really powerful strategies you can use anytime to build up your mental strength and resilience. So our toolkit has 4 core strategies. We're going to start with recalibrate, which is all about adopting an experimental mindset. Then there's refresh, using the feeling of awe to shift your perspective. Of course, we have rest because your energy is everything. And finally, recharge, which is all about finding that powerful state of flow. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these. So first up is recalibrating. When you're facing a challenge, instead of feeling all this pressure to have the perfect answer, just reframe it. Treat it like an experiment. You're not trying to succeed or fail, you're just testing something out to see what you can learn. This little shift changes everything, because now the only way you can really fail is if you don't learn something from it. Next up is refreshing your perspective. When a problem feels so big it just takes over everything? The trick is to find a way to experience awe. Seriously, it could be staring up at a huge building, walking in the forest, listening to an incredible piece of music.
The idea here is to build your own personal list of things that inspire awe. That feeling has a way of reminding us that we're part of something way bigger, and it pulls our focus away from our stress and toward what's possible.
And finally, let's talk about recharging by finding your flow. You know that state, right? When you get so absorbed in what you're doing that you completely lose track of time. It could be anything: cooking, writing, playing a sport. The key is that the activity is challenging, but it's still doable for you. Finding your flow is like giving your conscious mind a much-needed break, and it lets your subconscious get to work solving problems and building up your resilience. So we've got the science and we've got the tools. But there is one major hurdle that can stop even the most committed person right in their tracks, and that is the fear of failure. It's something we all deal with, so we have to tackle it head on.
I want you to really think about this question. Is it the actual act of failing that scares you? Or is it something else? Because this little distinction right here is the key to unlocking a whole new level of growth.
It turns out, for most of us, fear of failure isn't even the right term. We aren't really afraid of the outcome itself. What we're actually afraid of are the feelings that we think come with it. You know, the shame, the anxiety, the self-doubt. Recognizing that is a total game changer.
Once we realize we're just afraid of a feeling, not an outcome, we can start to change our entire relationship with failure. We can see it for what it really is. It's just feedback. It is not a wall. It is not a final judgment on who we are. It is simply a guide, a piece of information telling us what's not working so we can get closer to what will. And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. A bulletproof mindset isn't something you just achieve one day and then you're done. No way. It's an active choice you have to make every single day. It's a commitment to keep practicing, to keep challenging your thoughts, and to keep building those mental motorways. So I want to leave you with this idea. Think of your mind as a garden. You can let the weeds of self-doubt and fear grow wild, or you can actively pull them out and plant the seeds of growth, resilience, and possibility. The choice is yours. So the real question is, what are you going to choose to have growing in your garden by 2026?